If you're a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing facility and your machinery isn't working right, Grainger knows you need to understand what's wrong as soon as possible. So when a conveyor motor falters, Grainger offers diagnostic tools like calibration kits and multimeters to help you identify and fix the problem. With Grainger, you can be confident you have everything you need to keep your facility running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Did I put the clothes in the dryer? I hope they don't think I was serious.
I need to be
about
awake.
Snacks.
I
want my brain
shut
shut
off.
Just sleep already.
When your racing thoughts keep you up at night, it's tough to let go and get the rest you need. Better sleep can help. You might have heard of white or brown noise, but there's a whole rainbow of color noises, and they can help you calm your mind, reduce stress, and sleep better, like the green noise you're listening to now. With the Better Sleep app, you can discover more color noises and over 200 soothing sounds, guided meditations, and bedtime stories. High-quality rest is vital to your mental well-being and physical health. Calm your restless mind, conquer your day, and sleep better at night. Download Better Sleep from the App Store or Google Play and start a 7-day trial today. Because when you sleep better, you feel better.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And on tonight's episode, we're going to do our second to last affiliate recap here as the 2025 minor league season draws to a close. The Chesapeake Baysox wrapped up their slate over the weekend. The Roberto Mercado-led squad finished 59-77. And while there were some challenges this year, particularly with the lineup, the pitching staff flashed a lot of potential. We're going to break all of that down on tonight's episode. And I do want to start with the pitchers. And just to run off some numbers here, the Baysox had the third most strikeouts in the Eastern League with 1,269, behind only Binghamton, the Mets affiliate, and Portland, the Red Sox affiliate. They also had a respectable staff ERA of 3.69, which is better than the league average of 3.85. And several prospects had breakout seasons there, whether you want to look at Braxton Bragg, who unfortunately had his season cut short because of Tommy John surgery. Trey Gibson, right now, probably the front runner for pitcher of the year in the Orioles farm system, had his longest and most productive stretch in the minor leagues this year at AA. And that really only scratches the surface of the pitchers that stood out during their time with the Baysox this year. And Nick, I will start with you because this was an interesting group where you had some guys that we were counting on having big seasons either get hurt and miss a lot of time, whether it was somebody like Edgar Portes or Juan Nunez, who basically missed all of, if not most of this season with an injury, or Zach Fruit, who lost a significant amount of time because of injury. But yet the guys that were healthy did step up in a big way.
Yeah, I like Alex Pham. Even was another one. You're just like, what could have been if he would have stayed healthy all year? I think I want to start the conversation here with like Blake Money. We want to start there first. 68 AA innings, a 4.21 ERA, but that came with a 3.69 FIP and a 2.95 xFIP. Career high strikeout rates. Like this guy, as he's moved up the ladder, the strikeout rate and the swing and miss has increased. The contact rate has decreased as he's moved up each level. And he caps off the year with 7 shutout innings, 10 strikeouts, and 20 whiffs. Pretty masterful into his year at the AA level. Guy throws a lot of strikes. He's been doing that since his college days at LSU. He pounds the strike zone. He eats innings for you, and he's been piling up the whiffs as well this year. Like, I was looking back to like, where would Blake Money? Where's he at in our top 15 now? Like somewhere in the 45 somewhere range. If you go back to a couple years ago, I'm pulling up this list now. Here's our midseason 2021 prospect list. We can go back that far. Where would Blake Money rank on this list? That starts with Adley, Grayson, DL Hall, Gunnar, Cowser, Westberg. Jesus Christ, this list is awesome. Heston Kjerstad, Kyle Bradish, Michael Baumann, Taron Vavra, Connor Norby, Kobe Mayo, Yusniel Diaz, Jemiah Jones, and then Kevin Smith at 15. And behind him, you got like Zach Lowther, Drew Rom at 19 and 20. Like, would Blake Money be a top 15 prospect on that list? When you look at, he's throwing 95, he's getting the strikeouts that he is, and the results that he's putting up at the AA level at this point. Like, this is a really fantastic year there for Blake Money, and a year that I know I've had trouble. Where do I rank him on the top 50 list? What do I see his ceiling as? And I still don't know. Is his ceiling like an up and down back end starter, a good starting depth arm, or is there a little bit more there in the tank? Honestly, I still don't know, but kudos him for a fantastic year.
Yeah, what a great way to put the exclamation mark on his season, because I feel like, especially at AA, like he was outperforming his ERA the entire time he was with Chesapeake, and then it was nice to see him throw 7 shutout with the 10 Ks there. I think his ceiling might be a guy. Well, ceiling probably back of the rotation starter, but most realistic, like if he can add a tick or two out of the bullpen, 96, 97, with ripping that curveball off against guys, I think that would be pretty nasty. Bowie's Chesapeake's rotation all year, pitching staff just phenomenal. Luis De Leon ends the year there. Michael Ferret ends the year there. Braxton Bragg is like Trey Gibson before Trey Gibson for this season before he got hurt. Even the guys who traded for Johan Watts Brown, Nestor Urman got almost 100 innings, 91 innings at AA this year with a 3.76 ERA. He looked really good and seemed like he got better as the year went on. Trey Sprite, Zach Fruit, Alex Pham, these guys kind of got forgotten about just because of injuries and coming back. Alex Pham, he's been kind of worked as a reliever the last couple weeks. It's very, very full in that. Same with Ryan Long. I think these guys could be really effective relievers in the next year or two, but yeah, not even getting to the actual relievers that are in the AA bullpen. It's just pure insanity. It was the year the pitcher all coalesced at AA at one point or another this season, just whether they started there, passed through there on their way to AAA, or finished the year there. It just was everything we've been talking about for the last couple of years.
Yeah, Nick, to go back to your question, I think that Money probably would have been in the 15 to 17 range on that list. And I know it's easy in hindsight to say, like, well, look what happened with Kevin Smith. He didn't pan out. We know what happened with Zach Lowther and Drew Rom. But Money has good velocity, consistent strike thrower, has the stuff that could play in the bullpen, but also might develop a back-end starter's pitch mix. So there's a lot to dream on here. I have struggled at various points with where do I put him on the list, because that first full season last year at Delmarva, it's like this guy's just solid. He takes the ball when it's his turn to pitch in the rotation. He goes 5 innings. He'll rack up the strikeouts, not walk very many guys. He might have some starts where the extra base hits get away from him, but overall, he's just really solid. But that doesn't always translate to success at higher levels. In the case of him this season, though, it did. And it's worth pointing out that second full year of pro ball for Money, 23 years old, his 121 to third innings ranked second in the Orioles minor leagues behind only Cameron Weston. So that's a really good number for him, shows that he can handle the workload. As long as he stays healthy, I think the Orioles have something here.
Yeah, that's not bad considering where he was drafted as well. Another good success story there. You mentioned Trace Bright too, like in his season, how he kind of got forgotten about. And yeah, he did because of the arms there. Trace Bright had 2 very distinct seasons though this year. And it was first half as a starter, second half as a reliever. Starter Trace Bright was it was the Trace Bright that we've been seeing for the last 2 years. 56 innings, a 5.4 ERA, just a 19% strikeout rate with a 16% walk rate. But as a reliever in the second half of the year, 30 innings, a 3.52 ERA, 26% strikeout rate, walk rate down to 13.5%, just a 209 average against. We've questioned for a while whether or not he could be more effective out of the bullpen. Fastball has good traits. We know he has a good curveball. the control has just always been this major issue with him. And like you've seen the stuff. I pulled back the 2024 spring breakout game. I know that's old information, but he was 94 and 95 with 20 inches of induced vertical break and a 3,000 RPM curveball with more than 6.5 feet of extension. Like that's, if you limit him to 1-2 inning stints, can you get the control to a point where that stuff is really going to play? And we still don't know, but if that second half of the season was a slight indication, like maybe, I think he's still going to remain interesting on my list looking ahead to next year. And I could even see, honestly, starting him back in Double A. I'm sure that's the last place he wants to go because this will be like his third tour at the Double A level. But
Alex Pham says, "Welcome to the club."
Here's my house. It's well worn in, ready to move in for you. But I'd say starting back in Double A next year, right back in the bullpen, and give him the first month. And if he can continue to build on what he did in the second half of the season, then you bump him up to Triple A and you say maybe there's something here with Bright.
Yeah, it could be very reminiscent of what we saw from Carlos Tavera this season before he unfortunately got hurt and missed most of the year. Yeah. He was showing some promise early on. So, yeah, I would not be shocked at all if I think guys like Trace Bright and Ryan Long could even be slept on a little bit as relievers if they focused on that, because the stuff is good enough to play in short stints, even though they were trying to work them out as a starter, probably longer than we personally would have if we were in control. But now that the logjam is like at the AAA level, I think the hand's going to be forced a little bit.
I want to focus now on what I think were 4 really successful pitchers at Double A this year: Nestor Herman, Trey Gibson, Braxton Bragg, and Levi Wells. And different stories with all those guys. Bragg was probably the biggest breakout in the farm system this year. Got off to a strong start at Aberdeen and then put up 42 2/3 innings of excellent work with the Baysox before having an elbow injury and having to undergo Tommy John surgery. Herman managed to put together a strong year, 91 innings pitched, 96 strikeouts, 3.76 ERA. Gibson, I mentioned at the top of the show, probably your leading candidate for pitcher of the year in the Orioles minor league system this year. He was flat out dominant with the Baysox. 1.55 ERA, 52 1/3 innings pitched with 68 strikeouts in that span. And then Wells, who came into this year was a little bit of buzz, but still some legitimate question marks based around his command, was excellent with Chesapeake. 75 innings, 80 strikeouts to 26 walks, a 3.12 ERA. And what was interesting in his season was that as the year went on, the strikeouts went up. So that was a good sign to me that he was able to do that. And he's holding his own right now in AAA. So looking at this group of 4 pitchers who were all very, very good this season, what stood out to you guys?
Wells, yeah, that's one name I forgot to rattle off when I tried to get them all. And shout out Baseball America, who listed him as one of the 9 most underrated pitching prospects in the minors. I think his adjusted stuff plus was 114. So it was like really good stuff. Obviously, we knew that despite what Keith Law tried to tell us one time. But yeah, Levi Wells, I think bare minimum, again, just a fiery guy out of the back of a bullpen. I think he could be between him, Chase McDermott, Zach Fruit. I mean, these are high octane guys that the Orioles have coming through the system, not to mention the Anthony Nunez, Tyson Neighbors, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, Levi Wells, very exciting. And I would not rule out him being a middle of the rotation starter eventually. Obviously, Trey Gibson, he's got an 8 I don't have it up, 8.75 ERA, I think, in AAA, but let me see what his FIP is because I know it's a lot lower than that. Yeah, 8.75 ERA, 3.49 xFIP, 4.60 FIP. So he's been continuing to pitch well, just the results haven't been there at the AAA level, but the stuff is clearly there, and he dominated AA before he got promoted. I mean, absolutely dominated it. And Nestor Herman, I think, is underrated. I mean, he has always been as he's been here, despite having great results. And again, I think he's had, I can't pinpoint exactly, but I feel like every start, it's like, yeah, he gave up 2 runs, but honestly, his defense let him down, or there are extenuating circumstances that don't show up in the stat sheet. So I think he's what, like our 11th or 12th rated guy on our list, and I think he kind of is falling under the radar. Yeah, 3.93 ERA he ended up with all year long, 3.76 in Double A, but 3.44 FIP and XFIP identical. So it seems like, yeah, I love all these guys. I think next year, I know the Orioles need to go out and get maybe 1, 2, like middle to upper rotation starters, but we are so loaded at the upper levels of the system with arms. It's kind of crazy. I think even if we had the same amount of injuries on the pitching staff in 2026, we will be so much better equipped to handle that next season than we were this season.
Yeah, the Levi Wells stuff was the most interesting for me, just because it's like this. Jeff Ponce wrote that article at Baseball America, and he said with the potential for 4+ pitches, Wells might be one of the more underrated starters in the minors. He used the word starters there as a note. Like I think it's guys like Levi Wells. Honestly, I think it's guys like Levi Wells and Nestor Herman and maybe even Blake Money who kind of shine. They step out next year. They have their big, huge breakouts next year in AAA. And I think they're going to shine. There's all this attention rightfully being placed on Gibson and Ferred and Luis De Leon for many reasons. But I think you've got a couple of guys who are truly a little bit flying under the radar here, especially from like a national perspective, because maybe the stuff isn't super electric in Blake Money's instance, right? But he's a pitcher. He knows how to pitch, and he's got 5 pitches that he knows how to use, and he's got the major league quality velo. But he just continues to fly under the radar. Levi Wells is a guy who, outside of Baseball America, who else is really pumping up Levi Wells? Like you said, Keith Law's just shitting on the guy. Like it's, I don't know. I'm excited to see what all these guys do across a full season of AAA. It's tough to watch guys like Herman and Trey Gibson right now, in particular in AAA, just because like they're reaching their career highs in innings at this point with the new baseball, with the new strike zone. There's a lot of factors going into that. So it's just, can you show me something? Can you flash a little bit here in AAA to close out the year? I'll be happy. And then we'll hit the reset button going to next year and see what they can do. But yeah, I mean, fantastic seasons for all those guys at the AA level. And Herman's the guy who, like, the stuff maybe isn't the sexiest, but it's a bunch of like 50-55 grade pitches with 50-55 grade control. And it's just, he gets the job done most nights. And if he he has those nights where he does falter and he battles his control, but those are rare nights where he loses that control. Yeah, you look what he did at AA this year, 91 innings. Yeah, the strikeouts were down, but the walk numbers look good. ERA, FIP, XFIP, all there right in line around 3.5. Like, just an overall solid year down there for Nestor Herman.
We would be remiss if, before moving over the hitters, we didn't talk about the Baysox relievers, because for months of this year, this bullpen was a lot of fun to watch. And yeah, Keegan Gillis was in AA longer than he should have been, and that's a guy who was excellent for them earlier this season. But you could go beyond that and look at numbers that guys like Yaki Rivera put up over what was pretty close to a full season's worth of action. Tyson Neighbors, after he came over in the O'Hearn-Laureano trade with the Padres, was great with Chesapeake. So there were a lot of good bullpen arms. Carter Baumler is another one that pitched well in relief for the Baysox. So who stood out to you guys?
Honestly, everybody. Keegan Gillis, obviously, yeah, we talked about him to death early in the season, and he's actually turned it on pretty well here over the last several weeks for AAA. I think he's finally figured out the AAA ball and strike zone and all that. Yeah, Neighbors is electric. Carter Baumler looks fantastic. Yaki Rivera, yeah, it's easy to forget about him because they shut him down a little bit early for innings, but man, when he was on this year, he looks like he could be an elite relief prospect, and he's still very young. Daniel Lloyd pitched well. Carter Rustad came out of nowhere, had a really good season between high A and AA. Peter Van Loon, again, I mean, he's a little bit older. He hasn't had the success when he's been tried out at the next level, AAA, but he had another solid season. Anthony Nunez, before he was promoted, had fantastic AA stats, and he looks really good in AAA as well. Yeah, just looking at this list here, I think that's about it. But yeah, Dylan Hyde, he missed a lot of the year, unfortunately, but he was looking good when he was in there. It was just the pitching staff from top to bottom was lights out.
Yeah, I think it was just shout out. Yeah, you mentioned Neighbors, 15 innings, 7 hits, 1 earned run, 5 walks, 19 strikeouts after the trade. I think he's going to get to spring training next year, get some run, and a lot of people are going to learn the name Tyson Neighbors for the first time because he's going to be an exciting arm to watch. Yeah, Carter Rustad had a really underrated year. We just, we focused a lot more on, especially in the second half of the year, about these strictly relief arms popping. And guys that they targeted at the deadline, they targeted some clearly some relief arms like Tyson Neighbors. But Rustad was a guy that we just didn't really talk about a lot this year. But in AA, 53 total innings between Delmarva, Aberdeen, and Chesapeake, with a 3.23 ERA, 24.5% strikeout rate. This is a guy who I don't have pitch data on him from AA or high A, obviously, but when he was at Missouri, he was low 90s, but 7 feet of extension with elite IVB numbers. Like he's an arm, he's an older arm, but if you're looking at him just in a relief role, statistically, he had a really solid year there at the AA level. And Micah Ashman was another guy who I haven't watched this year, so I can't really speak to what I saw from him on the mound, but after he came over in that trade from the Tigers at the deadline, 15 innings, he had a 4.80 ERA, but a 1.02 FIP, 38% strikeout rate, and just a 6% walk rate. And I went back and I pulled up his Fangraphs report, and they highlighted, he's 6'7" with an average fastball, 92, but 19 inches of induced vertical break. But both of his secondaries are playing up like plus pitches, according to Logenhagen, especially his slider, which produced elite whiff rates in 2025. The tailing action changeup is a passable third offering, and Logenhagen says if the Orioles want to try Micah Ashman out as a starter, that they would be justified because he has a lot of starter traits. He throws a ton of strikes, he has good control, or he could just be a fast-moving relief arm to add to that stable. So Ashman's a guy who I need to find. Hopefully he pitched on the road in a good viewing ballpark and to get a good look at Micah Ashman after the trade, but yeah, kind of another kind of sneaky, maybe under the radar addition there at the deadline.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Thursday Night Football is on, and it's only on Prime Video. Tonight, an AFC rivalry ignites as the Miami Dolphins battle the Buffalo Bills in a heated division showdown. What's great about this battle tonight, the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills? We have 2 quarterbacks who have had great success. Can the Miami Dolphins find a way to finally beat the Buffalo Bills? Can Tua Tagovailoa have a game where he can outduel Josh Allen to find a way to win for Miami? Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern with football's best party, TNF Tonight, presented by Verizon. Not a Prime member? Not a problem. Simply sign up for a 30-day free trial. It's the Dolphins and the Bills, tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
Did I put the clothes in the dryer? I hope they don't think I was serious.
I need to be
about
awake
snacks.
in
I've got my brain
hours.
shut
Just
off.
sleep already.
When your racing thoughts keep you up at night, it's tough to let go and get the rest you need. Better sleep can help. You might have heard of white or brown noise. There's a whole rainbow of color noises, and they can help you calm your mind, reduce stress, and sleep better, like the green noise you're listening to now. With the Better Sleep app, you can discover more color noises and over 200 soothing sounds, guided meditations, and bedtime stories. High-quality rest is vital to your mental well-being and physical health. Calm your restless mind, conquer your day, and sleep better at night. Download Better Sleep from the App Store or Google Play and start a 7-day trial today. Because when you sleep better, you feel better.
Let's go over now to the hitters. And you can look at the stats sheet and see that this was an offense that dealt with a lot of challenges. The Baysox ranked last in the Eastern League in batting average, slugging percentage, and OPS with figures of 212, 338, and 642, respectively. Their 304 on base percentage as a team was the second worst in the Eastern League, ahead of only New Hampshire, the Toronto affiliate. And when you look at this group, one thing that jumps out is that there were a lot of injuries. A lot of guys kind of had lost years because of the time that they missed and their struggles on the field when they were healthy. And it's worth noting that it wasn't all bad. Creed Willems, who we're going to be talking about a lot in a little bit here, had a nice season. Reed Trimble, when he was healthy, reminded us of what a fun player he can be when he is on the field. Aaron Estrada was promoted from Aberdeen later in the season and put up a very good run with the Baysox in 110 plate appearances and 855 OPS. Enrique Bradfield Jr. missed a lot of time with an injury, but was generally solid when healthy. So this was, I think, a tough year for a lot of position players at this level, and injuries were some of it, but then some guys really did struggle.
It was a rough lineup to start the year on paper before the injuries started popping up. So, yeah, it got really rough there. I think there were some nights where you had an FCL guy or two in the starting lineup just because they needed a body. Like, it was really, really bad. This is the worst AA has been on the hitting side since we've been doing this podcast for sure. But like you said, definitely some shining players there. Like Creed Willems had a really solid, consistent season. Trimble, I think he's at least put himself on the consideration to be protected on the Rule 5 draft. I still don't think he will be, but he's performing at least enough to be up there with Judd Fabian as a maybe, would they go one way or the other? Aaron Estrada, like you said, after promotion just was really, really good, even though he missed some time with an injury as well. Austin O'Verne, I feel like, really came into his own. He had identical OPS 753 at high A and double A, but I just think he was more comfortable at using the skill set he had once he got to double A. Once he was in the middle of that season, he was stealing more at will, bunting for base hits, showing off the power, 5 doubles, 5 home runs. Wasn't walking as much, but I think he really put himself on the map once he got to double A. Brandon Butterworth, who we obviously interviewed a week or two ago, he performed really well. He had a bad final week or so, but he was really, really good after being promoted to double A as soon as he got here. Other than that, Adam Retzbach ended with a 703 OPS, but he was pretty good most of the year. 19 doubles, a triple, 13 home runs. So, yeah, other than that, it was pretty rough. But
yeah, luckily by the end of the year, you did have some fun names that I think when you got, Aaron Estrada back in Double A potentially next year, Thomas Sosa, maybe Austin O'Verne back in Double A. We'll see. It's going to be a lot better this year, but I think a lot of that had to do with what we talked about coming into the year with the whole, especially in the as far as the infield depth is concerned. There just really wasn't much. There really wasn't any infield depth in the upper levels of the minor leagues, and so I think just unfortunately the Double A level took the brunt of that. You had Carter Young just has never performed. You had Anthony Servideo. I think he played a lot down there in Double A, a guy who just never really performed with the bat.
Max Wagner.
Max Wagner never took another step forward. Tavian Josenberger had injuries, and when he was on the field, he really struggled. Like I mentioned in the AFL stuff, I thought he was a slam dunk pick to go to the AFL. He is not going. He was just a 3rd-round pick not too long ago. It's a little surprising there, but yeah, like Bradfield, good when he was on the field, of course. O'Verne just played exactly as I thought he would when I wrote about him being a highly overlooked prospect in the system back in the winter. The strikeouts were going to be there. We knew that, but I was expecting a good amount of power from him, and he really started to show that. So the power started to shine through. You mentioned the speed, just electric out there on the base paths. 13 home runs with a 123 WRC plus across 2 levels this year. Really good first step for Austin O'Vern, and he's another year of focusing on baseball full time after stepping away from football. And he made a lot of changes after his freshman year at USC, and made sure he made some more changes here since joining the Orioles. So I think he's a prime breakout candidate next year. Estrada, we talked a lot about, is just a guy who is just completely slept on. And he's not going to challenge Westberger or Holiday or anybody on that infield at the major league level if he stays in the organization. But he could be he's a switch hitter, utility player with power. He can play the infield, he can play the outfield. He has a 137 WRC plus at AA this year. He hit 300. I think his last game of the year, he went 3 for 3 with a walk or something. Just a statement on the last day of the year there. And he's only 20 years old still. It's I could even see, the Orioles are going to sign a lot of, they're going to sign next year's VMAL machines. They're going to sign those guys to the extension of the bench that are going to go down there in Norfolk. And you need those guys. But could Aaron Estrada push his way into AAA opening day roster next year? Potentially. If he doesn't, he's not going to be in AA for very long next year, I don't think, because he continued everything we said we wanted to see from Aaron Estrada when he was in high A to get that promotion to AA. He continued that and improved even more when he got to AA this year. So continues to be criminally overlooked. And yeah, that as far as the bats go, that's about it as far as the bats are concerned at the AA level this year, unfortunately. But it will be much better next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing about Aaron Estrada, he turns 21 January 16th. I believe we share a birthday. Great birthday, great day of the year. This is a very 20 to 21 to 22. This is prime development age. So I really feel like he could even hit another gear next year. And especially if he figures out another trick of the trade, if he takes another big leap forward developmentally over the offseason, I could certainly see him starting in AAA and really making a statement at his age 21 season.
Yeah, what's interesting about Estrada is that this was the second year in a row that he didn't hit his first home run of the season until late May. That happened in 24, which he split between Delmarva and Aberdeen. He ended up finishing with 9 homers. This year doesn't hit his first home run of the season again until late May, but he ends up with 10 homers between 2 levels, and even 5 at Aberdeen and another 5 at Chesapeake. So the power is there. It might, in the course of a season, take a little while to show up. I don't know if that's going to be a trend in the future with him or not, or if it's just coincidental, but the power is there. He can move around the field. I think the biggest question mark with him going into the future is going to be, what's the position that you feel comfortable the most rolling him out in? They tried a little bit of left field this year, and that didn't seem to work particularly well, but I doubt they're going to give up on it. So maybe it's second base, maybe it's third, but I think that your utility players, you have to have that one spot where if all else fails, you're fine putting them there for the night. And I think the Orioles still have to find that with Estrada, but the bat is so good that you've just got to hope that he continues to develop at this pace.
And another just disappointing, he played 112 games for a second straight year, which is good to see. But Douglas Hodo was a guy, I think he went to the Arizona Fall League last year as well. He was a guy who his first 2 years in the organization didn't play. He only had 50, 60 something games those first 2 years. And he was, he comes out of Texas known as this, a really good center field defender out there when he was down there for the Longhorns. But last year when he was finally healthy, he hit 9 home runs. He hit 20 doubles. He had a solid year. He stole 51 bases and he walked 70 times. So he had a 382 on base percentage. And I feel like the conversation we were having about Hodo was okay, is he playing his way into a fourth outfield conversation? And this year, same thing, 112 games, same as last year, but just a 201 average. Strikeouts went up, walks went down. He was only 29 stolen bases, caught 10 times this year, just a 650 OPS. So even the guys who did stay healthy outside of Creed, who we're going to touch on here, saving the best for last. Outside of Creed, no one else who stayed at Double A level for an extended period of time really was able to take that next step forward this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was a tough year for Hodo. I think I had said before the season, because we were getting a lot of questions about Hodo, that if you wanted to look at a ceiling for him, it could be Ryan McKenna with a better, going to walk more and hit for more power. But that was kind of the baseline that I had. The difference between the two is that McKenna had a much better track record of hitting upper levels minor league pitching than Hodo has had to this point in his career. And I was really hoping that last year was going to be the springboard to say, okay, maybe he's not an everyday player, but that's not what you thought you were getting when you drafted him out of Texas. And if you could have him just emerge as a really solid 4th or 5th outfielder who can give you a lot of time in center field, that's great for a 6th-round draft pick. But we didn't get that this season.
No, I still think there are some tools there where he could be like AAA super depth, like 5th outfielder in AAA, 4th outfielder in AAA, where if you need someone that you feel comfortable DFAing after a game or two in an emergency, not terrible to have. I still think the skill set isn't much different than he showed last year, but yeah, if he's going to be striking out like 30% of the time in AA, it's not going to get any better. Higher, he did have a little bit of a lower BABIP than he usually runs, so even if you bump up his batting average by 20, 30 points, still below average, but I don't know. He's no more disappointing than Hudson Haskin. No offense to that drive-by.
We'll go in now to our final segment of the night. Last call brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridgely Street. Checker Spot is not far from Camden Yards, making it the perfect place for a pre or post-game drink. And when you're at the ballpark this year, be sure to check out the beer stand behind home plate, where you can get one of Checker Spot's signature beers, The Bird is a Word. And it's also worth noting that this Sunday is the 3rd annual South Baltimore Brewery District hot dog race. Checker Spot, as Relis, is going to be going for a three-peat when that event begins on Sunday morning at 11. So the perfect stop before the Orioles take on the Yankees at Camden Yards. Checker Spot will be going up against their neighbors in the South Baltimore Brewery District, Wyco as ketchup and Pickett as mustard. The event begins at 11 outside of Pickett Brewing Company, which is right near Checker Spot. You can actually see the big mural outside of Checker Spot from the front door at Pickett. So be sure to head over to Pigtown this weekend and check out that event. Now, we'll get into our awards here. We've been doing this with every team recap, awarding our hitter and pitcher of the year. We have our hitter of the year solidified. However, Nick has a blank ballot on our outline, and I don't know if that's an act of protest or if he just forgot to jot down his selection. So, Nick, who are your hitter and pitcher of the year for the Chesapeake Baysox?
Hey, he's breaking a tie here on the pitching side. This is good radio.
I want to break the tie in favor of Trey Gibson. Just statistically speaking, like I jotted down his just AA stuff here. So there were 101 pitchers who threw at least 50 innings in the Eastern League this season, and Gibson had the 4th highest strikeout rate at 32.5%. And among that group, he had the 3rd lowest walk rate among the top 10 in strikeout percentage, behind Cam Schlittler was one of those arms, and another Yankee arm, Elmer Rodriguez Cruz. Good for him. But 2nd highest K to walk percentage at 23.9%, behind only Jonah Tong, who's in the major leagues. Jonah Tong had almost a 30% strikeout to walk percentage there. Gibson's 155 average against, 2nd lowest in the Eastern League, 2nd best ERA, 3rd best whip, 3rd lowest home run per 9 innings, which is good considering he's pitching his home games in Bowie. Just a fantastic season there for Trey Gibson. Put up some great numbers there. And the hitter, we can talk more about Creed Willems because we've been hinting at it, haven't really touched him, but Creed Willems as the hitter of the year, just a very solid year. And from my point of view, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but from my point of view, his season went under the radar just because I was paying more attention to Ethan Anderson. Like, break out of this slump. Please break out of this slump. Please get healthy. We want to see Ethan Anderson from the first 2 weeks of the year. I'm waiting to see that again. Andrew Tess having his big breakout, initial breakout at least. Of course, the Basayo excitement. Then they draft Caden Bodine. So all the while, Creed's just kind of doing his job. I would check in and be like, all right, have the strikeouts regressed? No, they haven't. Is he still showing the power? Like, check. You look up and it's a double dong day for Creed Williams down there in Double-A. Great, check. He's doing his thing. I just really didn't find myself paying a lot of attention to Creed this year. And when you look back at his full season, it was a 117 WRC plus. The strikeout rate continued to drop even more. 27% in 2023, 20.5% last year, down to 19% strikeout rate this year, all at the Double-A level. Career high contact rate, like just a very good season down there at the Double-A level for Creed this year.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. He definitely had his ebbs and flows, but I think by far his most consistent season, he was right around 250, 260 average, hovering around 800 OPS most of the season. And yeah, that's good enough because you got to consider the run environment. A 117 WRC plus, that's almost 20% better than league average in his age 22 season. So that's pretty darn good for a catching prospect. And maybe the defense isn't quite there, but I think it should be at least be able to be developed into, again, a third catcher, potentially DH, first base, maybe backup catcher, offensively minded. Maybe if the full ABS goes into play at some point, that wouldn't be as big of an issue. But at the very least, I know he's Rule 5 eligible this season. I don't think he's going to get protected by the Orioles, but maybe he could be a really good target for another team in a trade this season. Could be win-win. He gets a chance to go somewhere where there's at least a chance to be a catcher or a major leaguer on some team sooner rather than later. And the Orioles can hopefully get something from him because he is a nice little prospect.
I just went back and I looked at our most recent public list, which was published in August, our top 50 update. Depending on how you count Ike Iris, Creed Williams is either the third or fourth best catching prospect on our list, and he was down at number 33. But I made this point on the air a few weeks ago, and I think that it's something to really think about with Williams, which is how many organizations in baseball would be happy if their top catching prospect was a 22-year-old at Double-A who was putting up good numbers at the plate, improving defensively in all facets of the game calling, blocking pitches, what have you. Williams continues to develop and get better in those areas. And you look at his final numbers, 253 average, 117 WRC plus. You guys already touched on the strikeout to walk numbers, which were fantastic. 16 home runs this season, just one off his career high. He had a really, really good year. I think this is his best season across the board at the plate. So he'll be 22 on opening day next year. His birthday isn't until June. So he'll be 22 on opening day next year, probably in AAA. Probably not getting a lot of buzz outside of the Orioles system unless he's traded by then. But if he is packaged in a move this offseason, some organization will have a 22-year-old catcher at AAA coming off his best season, and they could probably claim that as their best catching prospect and be completely justified in it. And it just makes you realize, one, how stacked this organization is behind the plate right now, especially with Basayo and Caden Bodine, but that Williams just is a good prospect who's getting better. It's been a very gradual build-up to get to this point. He certainly hasn't been fast-tracked, but when you consider that he was a catcher drafted out of high school, we knew all along the development curve was going to be a little bit slower, and he's just checking off box after box right now.
Yeah, he's gradually, like you said, he's just continued to develop at a pretty steady pace throughout his young career. And I think I'd be honestly surprised if he didn't make the majors at some point with some team. I mean, I think he's with his age and his abilities, maybe he's not going to be able to be an everyday catcher because at this point, I don't think the glove is there, but the bat is at least playable enough to make it with some team. It's really hard to find room here with the Orioles, but that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, that's the tricky part there with Creed, though, is like, where does he fit in? Because when you've got Maverick Hanley, who's still like, I was thinking Maverick Hanley was going to be like a free agent after this year. He is not. So like if you keep Maverick Hanley around, like I was thinking Creed and Silas could form a nice 1-2 duo, and you think, all right, if we need an emergency catcher, do we want the more defensive minded guy in Silas, or do we want the bat in Creed? Do we just need a week of offense, and hopefully that power shines through there? You got a good 1-2 punch there. But then like if Maverick Hanley's still going to be in the organization and they keep him on the 40-man roster, I think that adds clearly that adds more competition for Creed. You know they're going to bring in the depth catcher to stash away in AAA, even if it's David Banuelos being the taxi squad guy again, or someone like him again next year, the new David Banuelos to be the taxi squad guy. But yeah, it is going to be tough for Creed to crack the major league side. So it is a positive that he had this very good year at the AA level, because yeah, I could very easily see him packaged in some sort of deal. He's not going to like headline a big time trade, but he can help boost a nice trade package.
Before we wrap up, I do want to touch on the pitcher of the year race. Trey Gibson wins that one here for AA Chesapeake. Probably not going to be the last time we're talking about Gibson in a situation where we're giving out an award this year, but Bob had Braxton Bragg. I had Gibson on my ballot. Nick broke the tie by going with Gibson, and it's worth just running a quick comparison, because despite Bragg's injury, there was actually not a significant gap in AA innings. Gibson had 52 1/3 with the Baysox. Bragg was 42 2/3. Bragg had a 2.32 ERA in that time period. Gibson 1.55. Strikeout numbers, Gibson had 68 strikeouts. Bragg struck out 59. Bragg did beat Gibson when it came to walks. Gibson walking 18 batters during his time with Chesapeake compared to Bragg's mere 12. That shows you how good Bragg's command is. So, Bob, I just want you to have the chance here before we wrap up. Nick ran off some of the numbers with Gibson, which were fantastic. But give us a little bit more background on why you went with Braxton Bragg as your pitcher of the year for AA.
Honestly, because I knew Trey Gibson was going to win, and I wanted to be able to shout him out so he wasn't forgotten, because it's easy to forget just how good he was before he went down with Tommy John. I mean, honestly, potentially better than Gibson was at AA, and I think he was on the precipice of a AAA promotion before the injury. He struck out 33.7% of batters in his time at AA and only walked 6.9%, so that's a 26.9 strikeout to walk percentage, whereas again Gibson 32.5 strikeout rate, 8.6% walk rate, still great numbers, 23.9 K to walk percentage. Gibson had him beat in FIP 2.20 to 2.42, but I just think it was so close. I still think Gibson's just the better prospect, even if Bragg didn't miss any time this year. But I think it was so close that it was worth giving Braxton Bragg a shout out, and hopefully we see him by the end of 2026 get ready for the 2027 season.
And with that does it for this week. So we're going to be back next week on a different night and time. We're planning to be on Wednesday of next week. And in fact, as we get into the off season, we're going to be recording on Wednesday nights more often than not. So just keep that in mind as you plan your off season viewing. We're of course going to be here every week, 2 shows a week, well into the off season, into spring training. We'll be back next week. And in the meantime, you can check us out on our many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, Blue Sky, YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok. We are also over at Substack, Orioles on the Verge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to Patreon and sign up to become a member of our community. You can join at the $3, $5, or $10 levels and have access to bonus weekly shows from Bob, Nick, and myself, as well as monthly updates to our top 50 prospects list. And we'll have more content for our patrons over the off season. So just because the season is winding down doesn't mean that we are slowing down over here. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spedden. You've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.
If you're a custodial supervisor at a local high school, you know that cleanliness is key, and that the best place to get cleaning supplies is from Grainger. Grainger helps you stay fully stocked on the products you trust, from paper towels and disinfectants to floor scrubbers. Plus, you can rely on Grainger for easy reordering, so you never run out of what you need. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Did I put the clothes in the dryer? I hope they don't think I was serious.
I need to be
about
awake
that.
in
Snacks.
3
I've got my
hours.
brain shut off. Sleep already.
When your racing thoughts keep you up at night, it's tough to let go and get the rest you need. Better sleep can help. You might have heard of white or brown noise. There's a whole rainbow of color noises, and they can help you calm your mind, reduce stress, and sleep better, like the green noise you're listening to now. With the Better Sleep app, you can discover more color noises and over 200 soothing sounds, guided meditations, and bedtime stories. High-quality rest is vital to your mental well-being and physical health. Calm your restless mind, conquer your day, and sleep better at night. Download Better Sleep from the App Store or Google Play and start a 7-day trial today. Because when you sleep better, you feel better.